Today, my guys, the plan is to power through enough enough of a backstory in order for me to be able to explain the origin of my platform and how it came to be. So I initiated that kind of thought a couple of times with people, and I always realized that I would like to dive more into details because that's like there's an essential concept hidden in between what I want out of this world and what I want to produce into this world. So I want to do that, and I feel that's going to be about like at least 10 to 20 videos. I want it to be 10 to 20 videos naturally. Okay. Sorry, man. I'm trying to adjust how the camera looks at me. But anyways, so while doing that, I was going through all the videos that I actually wrote before, and there's a theme that I've transferred over the past 3 months. And there are like three videos I want to do: one about art, one about silence, and one about emptiness. And I keep pushing them forward. And I feel like the reason why all these three I can't actually speak about them right now, it's because like there's still a lot missing in how I actually like. If I were to talk about art right now, most of my videos haven't discussed half the stuff that I used to that I actually built in my mind in order to contribute to such a theme. So what I'm gonna do is I took them out of the actual copybook, and I'm gonna just write them on the back of a piece of paper and like tag them somewhere, which is something amazing because there's silence, emptiness, art. All right, so now I have these three things. Ooh, sticky notes! I fucking love it, man. I got sticky notes. And there's one that's already been opened. Oh, fuck it, I wanted the blue one. Did I? I don't know. Whatever. But anyway, so now I'll write them on a sticky note and I'll stick them somewhere. And I need a place for sticky notes. I think I might have a small place here next to me. I took a note that I wanted also a lock, not a lock, man, what the fuck? The steel, that steel nail that you use to actually like go through concrete. I needed like some of them because I have to hand my board, my makeshift board, because the actual boards are like 60 fucking bucks. So I made this one for like 30. It's fucked up, I know. Vids, silence, emptiness, and art. All right. So, but anyways, one thing that I've been doing over the past couple of weeks is over the past 3 4 months, and that's basically that's gonna look like I am actually closing the entire conversation about my consulting work that I've been trying to do in Iraq. So I sent the guy today everything I wanted to do. I sent him the report. I sent him the invoices. I practically basically gave him everything he needed. Uh, I personally have not in my life put in that much work in terms of like the paperwork that I actually have to do towards anything. And I've started companies before, closed 9 companies before, started about like 13 of them. And not once was I the one doing all that work. So this is the first time I'm experiencing the effort that it takes to kind of like align certain numbers, pages, papers, just fill on those things. I used to always hand them over to people, which is probably the first mistake I ever did in how I tried to do stuff and how I tried to work. Because I find a few people that are able to like do certain jobs and I kind of rely on them on everything, but they're satisfied with all that they know, while I am trying to completely like always mutate the idea or evolve it into something bigger and better. And let's just say I was never able to consistently pull everyone with me because I myself was not doing things the way they were supposed to. So moving on, uh, the conversation I have with anyone, especially people that I meet, is always a deeper dive into where the fuck are we? Where the fuck are you going with your life? What are the things you're thinking about? How do you plan your days? What are the concepts that you work through? And my favorite thing is like if I were to tell people about you, what are the things that you actually represent? What are the things that should be like pointing at? And naturally, I have my own opinion, but anytime I'm asking somebody, I feel like it's always me trying to understand how they branded themselves, how they engage with how they want the world to see them, how they're trying to how they're trying to present themselves to the world, what is it exactly they're trying to do. So as I actually, so I've been realizing it more because it's become extra difficult for me to just say hi to somebody and after asking them about their day, just let it go and allow them to kind of just rant about stuff. It's always more questions about more details, and most of the time people are just not interested. So for me, that's always a personal branding effort from my side, and I realize it's connected to the project that I want to do because the project I want to do is the website that I'm building is supposed to support people in how they represent themselves digitally from the actual life that they live. So, okay, so let's take this concept from a different level. Uh, the digital persona that you have, be it your email, be it your Facebook account or Instagram or any of those stuff, research and a lot of I can't say that without being opinionated on my own. But the one thing I realized through all papers that I read and a lot of just actual research being done by multiple big ass companies, uh, your persona online is completely different than the reality that you're living. The real you is always kind of hidden. The real you is always like a facade so that is accepted by society or that is trying to kind of get accepted by society. The real you as well, that's a personal experience from my perspective, right? Because I got rejected by society the way I was, and then I tried to mold myself into it, or I tried to be myself in a different society, and it was a good experience until it stopped being a good experience because ultimately society, if you're living in your own corner, then you can practically be yourself, but then if you want to expand and be more, then you kind of have to adhere to more and more things. So online personas are completely different than real personas. And anytime I meet, especially over the past 10 years, I'd meet somebody that I've seen before on Instagram, or I'd meet somebody normally, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, all that stuff. And then when I go to actually have a conversation with them, when I see their profile, it doesn't really represent who they are. And so it always got me to be skeptical about who they truly were and what they're truly trying to represent in the world. Maybe that's just a bit of trust issues, but it's fine. We need that in order to understand who we're dealing with. So most of the time, I'd be talking to people. I'd end up asking them a lot more questions, and I'd end up asking them about how they process things, what are the thoughts that go through their mind, where do they come from, and what are the triggers, their values, their principles, which ideally are the questions that you always ask while you're trying to brand a company. So for me, it's more I want the personal brand of every individual because branding a company requires a team and all the effort and stuff like this. Whilst for individuals, you kind of have to just have them, and that's what coaches online tell you, write your principles down. You're true, but sometimes you kind of need a couple of questions to understand the truth behind your principle, the truth behind your values, the truth behind your goals. And it feels like most of the time, this insecurity between us and the words that we use is what kind of gives and takes and stalls us and puts us in a weird place every single time we're attempting to do something. So anytime I'm speaking to anyone, it doesn't matter who they are, I'm always trying to pick how their brain works. And I've been succeeding a lot faster and smoother lately in just eliminating any form of conversation that happens with people that's kind of in the mundane, how are things and how is everything, and directly having them kind of explain to me the logic behind why it is something that's prevalent in their direct persona. The simplest way to do that is I went to a place and I was talking to the manager over there. I remember I asked her a few questions about tea, and it took me 5 minutes to go from tea to what she does and how she wanted to get the job and how she's contributing to the job and how she's growing herself in the job. And it's just tea and herbs, right? But the knowledge behind these things could be intense. There's an actual documentary on Netflix called Jiro Dreams of Sushi, and it's about just a random guy who has a small sushi shop in the subway in Japan. And that guy sells sushi for I think you have to reserve about 6 months in advance, and you have to pay I think about $200 for the reservation, and that has nothing to do with the actual food you're going to pay for when the time comes. And the reason for that is because all he thought about was sushi. Every single day he'd think about sushi. And so his mind expanded when it came to the understanding of the smallest details. So it's fascinating how, like, when people are doing things in their own world, in their own life, they kind of like they see a depth to whatever it is they're doing, or they should be, right? There should be. And there's a certain like level that you kind of have to like dedicate time and effort and energy towards achieving. And a lot of the times when it comes to us, we don't see that in our own lives and we don't appreciate that in other things that are given to us. Like how much thought and energy was created in order for, like, I don't know, the tea ceremonies that we have, the herbs that we picked, how many people had to die to actually like figure out which herbs are toxic, which herbs aren't, how many people had to kind of like test certain things in order to see how they survive and everything. So there's a lot of thought that went through almost every single thing in front of us because humanity's history is built on the concepts and people's trials and attempts. And my goal is to kind of like reveal these people, or at the very least, the people who are trying and attempting to do something to kind of like come out and express themselves one way or another towards what they're trying to do. And over the course of the past month, 2 months, I've been very efficient at actually getting to the core of individuals. It's become a lot simpler for me to kind of like dive deeper to what they're thinking about and kind of bring out all the things that are not really coherent in what they're saying and all the things that they don't necessarily support in their day-to-day activities, even though they think that's part of their day and then they think that's something they should like thrive for. And I call that personal branding. And the reason this is a big part of my life is because that's like ultimately the main thing that I think is of value of any individual. And my entire life goal is to see how we can monetize that in a way where people don't necessarily have to like conform to anything in society, but actually be able to like evolve on their own without really having to struggle in order to get there. Because historically, people like that, or people who ever achieved anything when they're in their own space, were only noticed later on in life and didn't get to like see life as a success. They see life through the eyes of society as success. Thank you. I think that was like intense. Thanks. I'll explain it better in the future. But like at the very least now you see where my end goal is. And so when the time comes and I actually explain how I decided to arrive on my own towards my goals, towards my platform and how I wanted to build it, then at the very least I'll be able to like pinpoint how I got there and the business behind it or the thought process behind it.